All right, class, today we're going to learn about job safety analysis, okay? So go ahead and give me my first slide. So our session is about safety and hazard recognition. Can I get someone to read our standard for us today?
Understand and practice construction safety.
Thank you, William. All right, so remember with our standard, we have to understand and practice. When we practice something, that means we do it continually over and over every day. That way we get better at it, and that way safety is first and foremost on our minds at all times. Could I get a volunteer to read our essential question for us? Yes, ma'am.
How can knowledge in performing a JSA benefit you and promote a safety culture in this class?
All right, very good. Now that's a mouthful. That essential question has a lot of information in there. So I want you to be thinking about that as we're doing the lesson, because we always want to know why we're learning what we're learning, and by the end of the lesson you'll be able to answer that question about performing the job safety analysis. All right, next slide. All right, here's our objectives for the day. It says when trainees have completed this session, they should be able to do the following. You should be able to describe the importance of safety, the causes of workplace accidents, and the process of hazard recognition and control. We're going to identify potential accidents and injuries, develop a plan to prevent accidents and injuries, and we're going to identify the common causes of accidents and their related consequences. Okay? Next slide. All right, now these are some terms that we've already gone over in the class, should be very familiar to you. We've covered these throughout the year thus far. We've learned what an accident was, we've learned what an incident is and the difference between the two. A lot of times people want to mix those two up, but since you know that make sure that when we do our job safety analysis, you use these trade terms. We learned what a competent and a qualified person was. And we also need to make sure we talk about a ground fault circuit interrupter. Many times we forget about the safety aspect of doing a job safety analysis because by now it should be second nature to you because you do it continually when you practice it. But when we're doing a job safety analysis, we have to list it. We have to put that information in there because whoever's doing the actual job, using the job safety analysis to do the job, if you leave it off, guess what? They may forget it. So make sure you include that on your job safety analysis also. All right. Also with OSHA, we talked about OSHA a lot, Occupational Safety and Health Administration. We always have to remember our PPE. And what we're trying to always have is a safety culture. And we learned about a safety culture in our first module when we learned how if everyone's doing the exact same thing, has the same plan of working safely, then we have a safety culture. All right, next slide. All right, here's what you're going to do a job safety analysis on. Your task today is to do a job safety analysis on building this sawhorse right here. Now, what you'll do is as in each group, I'm going to put you in groups of 3, and I've already determined why I'm going to have you in the groups I have you in. And what you'll do is you'll go through and you'll determine how you're going to go about building this sawhorse. Look at it closely and see all the different intricate cuts and how it's assembled and all the different pieces. Now, we don't need a material list yet. That's farther down the road. But we're determining what things we need to do to make sure we can build this sawhorse safely. Now, I'm sure I could send a couple of you students out in the shop and you could build it. And by second nature, you know what you need to do because the first thing you do when you walk outside is you make sure you have your proper PPEs on. But here you have to list all that stuff. So don't leave anything off. Okay? Next slide. Now I've given you the tools that I want you to identify in your job safety analysis. Because these are the power tools that you will use. Back up, can you back up one slide for me? There you go. Those are the power tools that you'll use to build this sawhorse. Okay? So make sure that you mention and talk about those tools in your job safety analysis. All right, go to that, 2 more. There you go. Here's the hand tools that you could and possibly use while building. So all those tools, power and hand tools, will be mentioned in your job safety analysis. And I have those on the sheets for you here. Next slide. All right. Now, this is the sheet you'll be working with right here. Now, of course, you put today's date on there. The job activity name is you're going to build a sawhorse. Okay? JSA number, just make up a number, whatever you want it to be. You can be cutesy if you want to. All right. Department group name, that would be first period, building area. You should put on room number 609. Other information, nothing, NA. Okay? And when you fill out a job safety analysis or any form like this, make sure you fill out all the information. Don't leave anything blank. It's just like when you fill out a job application. You leave nothing blank. You fill out all the information that you have. Okay? Then you go through, and what's this basic steps? You're going to write down what's the first thing you're going to do. And you're going to write that down and just to paraphrase it, just enough to know that I know what you're going to do. And then the potential hazards for doing that. Okay? So the first thing you're going to do is cut out the steps, cut out a leg. What's the potential hazards of doing that? You're going to mention that in there, okay? And then the controls. How are you going to keep that accident from happening? Okay? All right, next slide. All right. We need to keep fresh in our mind about unsafe acts. Now, I've given you some examples of them. Failing to wear PPE, failing to warn coworkers, lifting improperly, loading improperly, removing guards, operating equipment at improper speeds, operating equipment without authority, servicing equipment in motion, taking an improper stance, using defective equipment, and using equipment improperly. So all those things are things that needs to be floating around in your head, okay? Because a lot of times we forget certain things that we need to list. All right, next slide. All right. Now, think about how these are considered unsafe acts. Now, we've all been in the shop, and we've all seen people doing things that we know aren't safe. Now, they know they're not safe also, but why are they doing them? William, why do people do unsafe things?
To be cool.
To be cool. To them, might be cool. Hey, watch this. I'm going to throw this nail across there, and I'm going to hit Alexis. Because it's funny, right? But that's an unsafe act, right? Because what happens if Alexis get injured because I was playing? Okay, it's not funny anymore. It's funny if it's all good and everybody gets a good laugh out of it. So we don't horseplay in the shop. No yelling and hollering. Now, there is an appropriate time to yell in the shop. When might that be, Kendra?
When someone is using a power tool, we don't.
Exactly. If you see me using a power tool improperly and I'm about to injure myself or do something, you need to holler. Now, if I hear somebody holler and I'm using that saw, what do? I stop. I don't look, okay? I stop, I let go of the trigger, and I hold the saw still until it comes to a complete stop before I find out why did she holler, okay? That's why we don't holler in the shop, because if somebody hollers, that means something bad is about to happen. And everybody's attention should be whoever's hollering, and that's why we don't holler and play, because we're not in the gymnasium, okay? We don't run in the shop. What happened? Go back one slide. All right, twitchy finger. All right. Running in the shop. Of course, we never run in the shop. There's no reason ever to run in the shop. Working without PPE, no excuse for that. Or throwing a pencil to a friend. I love to use that example because, even sitting in the classroom, it's okay. You need a pen, here you go, I'll toss one across the room. You all know that's one of my biggest pet peeves because accidents can happen at any time, okay? Oh, I'm just trying to help somebody out. We'll pass it to them by hand. Don't throw anything to anyone, okay? Now, next slide. All right, purposes of the job safety analysis, okay? We always have safety concerns. Quality concerns, because we always want to do the best job possible. We always talk about professionalism in here. A professional always does things to the best of their ability every single time they do it. William, every time you wire something, don't you try to do it just a little bit better than the last time? Is close enough good enough? No. Professionals never take that attitude, okay? Duration of the job. So while the job's going on, you always continue to think about safety. Sometimes with some of these, for example, okay? Let's say someone doesn't know how to use a compound miter saw. Do you think they need some specialized training? Then you need to mention that also, okay? That's how we can prevent someone from becoming injured. Just like with all the power tools or all the tools that we've used thus far, we've always gone through proper training. I've demonstrated how to use them. I've let you use them while I've watched you use them. I've let you guys use them in groups and such. So make sure that the specialized training. Let's say Kendra was absent that day that we went over the compound miter saw. Well, Kendra needs to do what? She needs to step up and say, you know what, Mr. Cutler? You didn't demonstrate, I don't know how to use this tool, okay? You just don't use the tool because you saw William use it, or if you saw Eve use it. If you haven't been properly instructed on how to use it one-on-one with me, then you need to let me know. And that needs to be with any tool that we use. All right, tool and equipment needs. You need to list any tools or equipment that you need, okay? Staffing and manpower requirements. Some jobs take more than one person to do the job, okay? So therefore, if you need more people, and that's why we do job safety analysis, okay? Because if it only takes one person to do the job, why are we paying 3 people to stand there? If there's only one person trying to do it and it needs 3, then we're not effective either. And that's how accidents happen. All right, next slide. All right, so we're going to explain the different components of the job safety analysis and the purposes of each. And the activity of breaking down the job into its individual component tasks and then analyzing each step for potential hazards. So that's what we're going to do with the basic steps. Look at that sawhorse. Look at every single piece of that sawhorse. Okay? How are you going to cut it? Now, we know we have 4 legs, right? Do we have to lift all 4 legs? No, just lift one leg. But you got each part that you have to figure out which tool I'm going to use to cut it and what safety precautions need to be taken while doing that. Okay? All right, next slide, I think that's the last one. Very good. All right, now, with that being said, okay, as I stated, I've got you broken up in groups, okay? And you guys are going to work together. I'm going to pass out the handouts that you guys are going to need. And I'm going to come around and work with each one of you guys. So I want you to work collectively as a group, talk it out, let one person write things down, and the other 2, all 3 of you talk together and come up with a plan. Now, is there a wrong answer for this? Can you overthink it? Not really. You can underthink it, okay? So if you only got 1 or 2, 3 things right here, you didn't do a very good job. Okay, so make sure you break it down to its individual components. Talk about every potential accident or hazard that could happen while using those tools. Okay? All right, does anyone have any questions?
No, sir.
Okay, guys, what are we thinking about this? Okay? Talk to them. Ask me some questions. So what's the first thing you're going to do on this, William? What's the first part you're going to cut out?
Well, probably your legs.
All right, so your basic step will be cut out legs. I'll help you with the first part, then you guys got to do the rest on your own now. All right, now, Alexis, which tool were you using here to cut out the legs? Just pick one. That would be a saw, of course. Okay, so she's going to use a compound miter saw, that's appropriate. So for potential hazard, right, compound miter saw. So what's some possible injuries, William, that could happen using a compound miter saw?
Cut a finger off.
You cut a finger off. So what's one way, Haley, you think that we could keep her from cutting her finger off?
Don't put her fingers where the saw is.
Keep your hands out of the way. Write that down for your control. Remember, there's not a wrong answer. We're just breaking and thinking about it. Now, she may not know that, but guess what? People cut their fingers off all the time with these saws. I mean, not in my room, my class, mind you. But it happens more times than you think. Because guess what people do? They put their hands in the wrong place. So what's another way we can make sure that we never put our hand in the wrong way, you think?
Don't take the guard off.
Very good. Make sure all guards are in place. Drop down the next line. Make sure guards are in the proper place. Now, you remember earlier in the year how we did our power tool inspection and such? So that could be one step, but make sure we inspect our tools before we start. Because what happens is we get in a hurry sometimes, and we just grab that tool, we plug it up, and I just got to cut one board. Well, how long does it take to cut a finger off?
Not long at all. about
Not
2
long at
seconds.
all, about 2 seconds. So we've got to make sure we inspect our tools to make sure they're operational such as they are. Now, let me ask you this. Alexis, have you ever used a compound miter saw before? So guess what Alexis needs?
She was teaching her.
There you go. She needs training. She needs proper training to use tools. So, because you got to remember, guys, as the job superintendent, you're going to assign someone else to do this job, and you've already done all this, but you got to make sure that you got to ask those hard questions. Okay, Alexis, have you ever used a compound miter saw? Now, the problem is a lot of times we're not honest because we have. Now, for the males, we have something called male pride. And we're not going to tell you that we don't know how to use it because you're going to think that we don't know what we're doing. But we have to be honest when our supervisor or our teacher asks us, have you ever used this before? If you haven't, you just say, no, I haven't. And guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to fire you, right? Now, what am I going to do? I'm going to train you to make sure you don't injure yourself. Now, remember when we talked about a safety culture and all that, and how we want to make sure that no one gets injured? Because what happens is if you get injured on the job site, it costs your company money. Lost wages, lost time, lost production, all those things. And now the job doesn't get done. It costs the company money if you get injured. So the company doesn't want you to get injured. Therefore, they want you to tell them if you need training on a tool. Okay? Now look how much information we got from cutting one leg on a sawhorse. Now there's something else we forgot. Now what kind of PPE do we need to wear?
Gloves. And eye protection.
Okay? So eye protection, hand protection, anything else?
Hard hat.
Hard hat, very good.
And closed-toe shoes.
Closed-toe shoes. Is there anything else we think of? Now this is
I
a
have like loose fabric, so I can't get
very good. Make sure you're dressed appropriately. Make sure you don't have any loose clothing. Also, if you're going to do a lot of cutting with this saw, it's really loud. Also,
Are you earbuds?
ear protection. Not earbuds though.
Ear protection.
Ear protection. Very good. So that's what I want you guys to do. Now, you probably don't have enough lines here, and that's okay. You can move to the back of the sheet if you need to. But as you go through, just like I did, and it seems kind of, man, that's a lot of work for this. But what we're doing is we're starting to think about those safety precautions when we're using these tools. Okay? How's that sound?
Sounds good.
All right, you guys keep working on that, and you're doing a great job. No questions for me?
No question.
All right, Elena. Now, looking at the sawhorse, what's the first piece you want to cut out on the sawhorse?
The top part.
Top part, very good. All right, so if we're going to cut out the top part, Mary, which tool do you want to use to cut this top part out?
The circular saw.
Very good. So Mary's going to use the circular saw to cut out the top part. So first step is going to be cut top section of sawhorse. You can paraphrase however you need to, because I know they're small boxes. Sawhorse.
Sawhorse.
All right, now, Mary mentioned about using a circular saw. So under potential hazard, right, circular saw, kind of small. You can do CC if you want to. CS, I guess. All right, now, what's a potential hazard, Elena, that could happen to Mary while she's using a circular saw?
She could get cut.
She could cut herself, okay? So cuts. Now, what's something we can do to make sure that Mary doesn't cut herself? Eve?
She can make sure she has her PPEs on.
All right, so control would be wear appropriate PPEs. Okay? What's something else you could do to make sure she doesn't get injured while using it? Let me ask you this, why do you think that Mary might get injured? What's a potential reason for her to get injured?
She's not dressed appropriately or not using the tool correctly.
Very good, very well said. I like your second one better, about not using the tool properly. Now, what's one reason you think, Eve, that people might not use their circular saw appropriately?
They haven't been taught how to use it just yet.
Exactly. So there you go. That's a perfect segue to the next one. Go to your next line, proper training with the power tools. Because in actuality, to cut this top piece, you will actually use all three of these power tools right here to cut that one top section because of the way it's designed. Okay? So proper training, which is very important. All right. Now, the thing about using power tools in a shop top environment or even on the job site is many times we have something called pride. Let's say that Mary was hired with a construction company and she didn't actually know how to use a circular saw, and you're her supervisor and you tell her to go build this sawhorse, okay? And Mary knows she doesn't know how to use it. You think Mary's going to try to build it anyway?
Yes.
Why would she do that?
Probably she's ashamed.
Exactly, because that whole pride thing, she's embarrassed to tell you she doesn't know how to use it because you hired her to do what? Work construction. Therefore, she's supposed to know how to do all this stuff, right? But see, the problem is throughout our career, we're going to run across things that we don't know like we think we should know. But we have to let that employer know, that supervisor know that, listen, I'm not proficient on the circular saw. Will you show me how you want me to do it? Because what's going to happen to Mary is when she tries to use it and she injures herself, now you as a supervisor, first thing you ask her is what happened? How did you cut yourself? And then she's going to fess up and say, you know what? I didn't know how to use it. And then your response will probably be, well, Mary, why didn't you tell me you didn't know how to use it? Okay? So remember how we talked about having a safety culture, and we talked about direct and indirect cost of accidents and how it costs the company money. So if Mary gets injured, let's say she severely injures her hand and she has to go to the emergency room, okay? Now it's actually costing your company money because they got to pay for medical expenses. Now, what did you hire Mary to do? Build a sawhorse, right? Did Mary build a sawhorse?
No.
So we still don't have a sawhorse, so now you've got to hire someone else to replace Mary while she's out because she's injured herself that you're still paying for to build the same sawhorse. See, that's why your employer doesn't want you to get hurt. They're going to do everything they can to help you. They're going to give you all the PPEs you need. They're going to give you all the training that you need. Now, sometimes they're going to assume that you know how to use stuff, but we have to remember, we have to let people know what we do know and what we don't know. Now, you as the superintendent, you're doing all this before the job even starts. Mary doesn't know you did all this. Okay? Now, you've done a job safety analysis. How many people do you think it's going to take to build this one sawhorse? One person, okay? So you're not going to hire 5 people to build one sawhorse, are you? So you've already figured this out. It's going to take one person. So once you've got all this established, so you've assigned Mary. Well, Mary, if she works for the company, she should know how to use all these tools. So you say, here you go, Mary, I need you to go build me 2 of these sawhorses right here. We're going to need them on the next job. And Mary injures herself, okay? That's why you do a job safety analysis. You've looked at all these things. Now that you've done this, you're going to go over this with Mary. And you're going to say, okay, Mary, okay, here's the tools that I'm going to need you to use. Do you have any questions? And that's what we do when we do a job safety analysis. We make sure that the employee knows what PPEs they have to have. Because we can't assume Mary knows that she has to have safety glasses on, that she has to have steel-toe shoes on. She might need a respirator. Now, this tool here is really, really loud. So guess what else she needs?
Ear protection.
Ear protection. So if you don't tell Mary she needs ear protection, she might not put it in. Okay? So that's why we do these type of things, to make sure that our workers don't injure themselves. Okay? So as you go through this process right here, like I said, just go through just like we did with this. And there's a whole bunch more information you can add on that same piece right there because, like I said, you're actually using 3 tools. So you'll do this on all 3 of these tools, discuss among yourselves, okay, what potential hazards are, such as that, and discuss it just like we did here. And then Eve, I've got your note taker. You just keep filling it out like that, okay?
Okay.
You have any questions for me?
No, sir.
All right, great job, ladies. All right, ladies. Now, Jordan, which part of the sawhorse are you going to cut out first?
Gusset.
The gusset. All right, so you're going to write gusset on basic step. Very good. Now, Kendra, which tool are you going to use to cut that gusset out?
The circular saw?
Circular saw. All right, so under potential hazards, write circular saw. All right, Jordan. Now, have you ever used a circular saw before?
Mm-hmm.
You have. Very good. Now, while using that circular saw, what's some things that might possibly go wrong while using it?
You can cut yourself. It
Exactly.
can go off you can lose control.
Very good. You could lose control of the saw and cut yourself. So there you go. Possible. So next, right, possible cuts. Because accidents do happen. Now, Kendra, I'm just guessing, you've probably used a circular saw much more than Jordan has, right?
Yes, sir.
So, what do you think needs to take place to make sure that we lessen the likelihood that we actually injure ourselves with a circular saw? What do we need to do?
We need to show it to Mr. Cutler's construction class so that way he can teach us and demonstrate us on how to properly use this saw.
Very good. So proper training. So there's your control. Proper training and practice with the saw. I like that. Because if we get properly, just like when I teach you guys how to use a tool, we just don't use it one time. We use it many times. That way we get comfortable with it, and we always also learn the right way to use the tool so we don't injure ourselves or someone else. Very good. Now, Jordan, let's talk about some PPEs. Now, what type of PPE do you need to wear while using a circular saw? Just name one now. There's a lot of them.
Goggles.
Goggles or safety glasses. So there's some more controls. So under control, you can go to the next line down, that's fine. Safety glasses. All right, Kendra, what's another PPE you might need with using the circular saw?
You probably need to make sure the guards are on it.
All right, so you jump in a different aspect, which is fine. Go to the next line. So what you're saying is make sure you inspect the tool.
Inspect.
Just like at the beginning of each module, we always do our tool inspection. Now, the reason, remember, we do our tool inspection to make sure the tool is going to work properly and we're familiar with all the parts and the guards, as you mentioned, to make sure they're going to work like they're supposed to. Very good point there, Kendra. All right, so can you think of another PPE we might need besides the goggles or safety glasses, Jordan?
Safety gloves.
You might need some gloves on. Very good, so put gloves down. Now, remember how loud this saw was when you used it that time? It was really, really loud. Now, if we're going to use it a lot, we might need some ear protection also, hadn't we? Because we don't want to damage our hearing, so put ear protection down. All right, so isn't it amazing how much information we got just from that one gusset? Thinking about it, breaking it down, each individual step. Now, how are you going to attach that gusset to that sawhorse leg?
Either with some screws or some nails.
Very good. So there's some more tools that we need to talk about too. Is depending on how we're going to attach it, if we're going to use a hammer to nail it, if we're going to use a drill to put screws in it. And that's what we're going to do. I want you to break down each individual component, just like you did. And now it's going, like I said, you probably don't have enough room on this one sheet, and you can write on the back if you need to go through each piece like that. And what you're doing is, and the reason you're doing this, is you're making yourself aware of each potential hazard, and by having that awareness, you'll be prepared for it. Now, on the job site, that's what your superintendent is doing, okay? He's hired you, and your first job is he needs you to build 2 of these sawhorses. Now, he's already done a job safety analysis, and he's determined, guess how many people he needs to build this sawhorse?
2.
Just one person. He's not going to hire 2 people to do it. Therefore, he's already determined all the potential hazards, okay? And he's already knows what tools you need, and knows what materials you need, and he's giving you a job to do it. Now, his responsibility also is to make sure you have the appropriate PPEs. Your employer has to provide you with the PPEs necessary. Now, sometimes we assume things, okay? Now, if you work for me as a construction worker, I assume you know how to use all these tools. But let's say for some reason, Jordan, you got hired and you've never used a compound miter saw before. Now, I know one thing about male pride is if my employer assumes I know how to use something, I'm not going to tell him I don't know how to, because I'm going to be embarrassed because I know I'm supposed to know how. And what happens if I accidentally cut a finger off while using a compound miter saw? What's the first thing you're going to ask me as my supervisor?
Did you know how to use it?
You're going to say, what happened? I thought you knew how to use this tool. And then I'm going to have to fess up and say, well, I've never actually used one before. Now, remember we talked about direct and indirect cost of accidents and how it costs the employer money? Mm-hmm. So now, I cut a finger off, so now I'm in the hospital. I've cost the company money because they're paying my medical expenses. But guess what they hired me to do? Build a sawhorse I never built. So now you got to hire someone else to fill my position while I'm laid up in the hospital to build that same sawhorse. So now it's costing more, cost time, wages, and production, because now the software still isn't built yet, and I've cost the company a lot of money. Your employer wants to know that you know how to use the tools and use them safely, and make sure that you always wear your appropriate PPEs. That's why we always cover safety so much, because it's so important to your potential employer. Okay? All right, so what I want you to do is keep going through each one of these pieces, because some pieces will require more tools than just one, and talk it out like we just did right here. Have that discussion, and take good notes and write it all down, and I'll come back and check on you guys in just a minute. Do you have any questions for me?
No, sir.
All right, great job, ladies. All right, William, what's something you learned about a job safety analysis today that you didn't previously know?
It is important so that you don't have accidents on a job site.
Very good. All right, Haley. So, tell me something about a job safety analysis that you learned today.
As William says, it helps ensure that there is no accidents, so businesses don't have to pay extra money.
Very good. It saves money. It saves time and saves money. All right, Alexis, did you have any idea that job safety analysis was even part of the job?
I didn't know that you had to do that much paperwork.
Very good. So remember how sometimes we complain in class when we have to write stuff and such as that? Now, who's not doing all this writing?
The workers.
The workers. Now, those are the lowest paid people on the job. So the superintendents who get paid much more money, and what kind of vehicles do they drive, William?
They drive Fords.
They drive big old nice trucks, usually company trucks that's provided for them, okay? So they have to do a lot of work and have a lot of responsibility because they have so many responsibilities, they get paid a lot more money than you do, because I have students all the time that whine and fuss about, oh, we got to write, we got to read and stuff. Well, if you choose not to read and write, then you'll always be working for someone else. But if you choose to read and write and you do things like this, you get paid much more money, and you're actually keeping a lot of people safe, so you're doing really, really good work. All right, any more questions? All right, thank you. Okay, Mary, tell me what's something you learned about a job safety analysis today that you did not know previously?
It is a lot of work.
It is a lot of work.
There's a lot of stuff that goes into it.
Very good. And one thing I shared with the other group was you know how when a teacher gives assignments that require a lot of reading and writing in class, and you hear those students that
And they're
whine
like,
and
"Oh."
complain, they suck all the air out of the room. Well, here's the thing, is the superintendents who make a lot of money, that's what they're doing. They're doing the stuff that you don't see. But you know who's not making a whole lot of money?
The workers.
The workers. Because someone else is doing all the hard work here, and they're just having someone tell them what to do all the time. They don't have any responsibility other than doing just what they're told to do. But by using those skills that you learn in your academic classes, the reading and the writing and such, you get paid a whole lot more. And that's why we encourage you guys to do more of that. All right, Elena, what's something you learned about the job safety analysis today?
I learned that if you're not safe, you can get your finger chopped off.
Very good. And also, that ties back into our previous lesson when we talked about direct and indirect costs of accidents. How if you do get injured, it costs the company money that you don't know about. And if the company's not making money, guess what they can't do?
Pay
They
me.
can't pay.
Exactly, okay? If they're constantly paying for injuries and such as that, then they can't pay the workers like they need to, and then the company goes out of business. So they don't want you to get hurt. They want you to work safely. They're going to provide you the PPEs you need. They're going to provide you the training you need. And what you do when you take a job with a company is you promise them, I'm going to work as safely as I can, and I'm going to wear my PPE so that I don't get injured. That's why they don't want people force playing and such as that, or goofing off. They expect you while you're there to do the best job possible. All right, Eve, tell me something about a job safety analysis that you didn't know.
You have to be very precise, because if you're not, then the worker who eventually reads it is not going to know exactly what goes into it and what they need to do.
Very good. It's kind of like I tell you guys whenever you're answering questions in my class or doing any type of paperwork, is give me more information you think I need. Don't assume anything, like Eve pointed out, because if you assume that they know they got to wear safety glasses and you don't put it on there and they get injured, something in their eye, and then somebody looks at job safety and well, you didn't tell them they had to wear safety glasses. Well, you can't say, well, I thought that he or she would know. That's why it has to be very detailed in your reports of your job safety analysis. Very good point there, Eve. All right, does anyone have any questions about job safety analysis? No? Great job, ladies. All right, Jordan, tell me, what's something you learned about a job safety analysis today that you didn't previously know?
It's important for workers and employers to understand the proper PPEs.
Very good. Why do you think it's so important for the employer that the employee knows what PPEs to wear?
To prevent injury, to prevent any kind of incident.
Very good. Because remember we talked about direct and indirect cost of accidents and such. Because if Kendra gets injured using one of these tools, okay, let's say her job was to build this sawhorse and she injured herself, okay. Now she's out The company has to pay her medical expenses such that because she got injured on the job site. Now they got to hire someone else in her place to do the exact same job that they hired her to do. So that's how it's costing the company money, because they still need the sawhorse. Remember, that's what they hired her to build. And the sawhorse still has to be built, but she can no longer build it because she's in the hospital with an injury. All right, Kendra, why is there so much information on the job safety analysis?
Because it is important that your employer lets the employee know, like, hey, you need to be safe, you need to be professional with it. Like, you don't, like, if you don't understand how to use a tool, you need to specify it so that way you don't cause your employer or your company to lose money and lose profit.
Very well said. So what I want you guys to understand is, it's just like in class, when a teacher or instructor gives a writing assignment or a reading assignment, you know, you have the students that just kind of, they get all animated. Oh gosh, we got to read, we got to write. I thought this was a construction class. See, this is what the superintendent's doing. And he or she, because it can be a female also, is making a whole lot of money because they've sat down and they're doing that work that you don't see. Okay? All the worker sees is, here, go build me a sawhorse. But see, he's already done a job safety analysis. He spent time in his or her office doing this, and they're getting paid money to make sure that the workers don't get hurt. And by knowing how to do this, you're making yourself more valuable, and you're working yourself toward a superintendent job because you know how to do these things. You got a lot of people who have already decided, I don't want to read and I don't want to write. They want to do just the minimum amount of work. They always constantly want someone to tell them what to do. Well, they're always going to be laborers. They're always going to have low wages and such. And that's not what I want for you guys. I want you guys to have these experiences, using these academic skills that you're learning in your academic classes to tie over in the construction industry so you can make a whole lot of money and have a lot of responsibility and have a good career out of it. Because the people who decide they don't want to do these types of things, they're not going to ever make much money. They're always going to work for someone else making minimum wages. Okay? So remember, we talked about direct and indirect cost of accidents, the importance of a job safety analysis, and Kendra pointed on this too. Because if you're in a situation where you don't understand how to use a tool, always let your employer know so that you can get the proper training so that you don't injure yourself or injure someone else too. Okay? Any questions for me?
No, sir.
Good deal. Great job, ladies. All right, class, I hope you now appreciate and understand the importance of a job safety analysis. And as our essential question stated, how can knowledge of performing a job safety analysis benefit you and promote a safety culture in this class? That's what I want you guys to do each day when you come in here. When I give you any assignment, I want you to think about it. We're not actually going to write out a job safety analysis every day, but in your mind, I want you to always think about safety. How do I need to be dressed? What PPEs do I need to have on? What do I need to do? What shouldn't I do? What do I do if I see someone else doing something they shouldn't do? That's parts of job safety analysis, and it should become second nature to you. Now tomorrow when we come in here, we're actually going to start building that sawhorse that was in the drawing today. I'll put you in groups of 2, and each one of you will build one sawhorse. See, now that you've already had the experience of knowing what tools you need and the safety precautions that you have and the PPEs, the job should go quite easily tomorrow when we start it. Now, we won't get it finished tomorrow, but we'll get it started out where we'll have our tools and we'll get some of our boards cut and such as that. Any questions about tomorrow? Now, remember how you should be dressed in my class every day. Proper shoes on, okay? And of course, we have our PPEs and make sure you're always dressed appropriately for the class. No flip-flops, no open-toe shoes, okay? Y'all have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow.